I'm not popular enough to have sponsors, but if I did, this video would definitely be sponsored by Asda Max Strength Cold and Flu Capsules. They've been helping me feel slightly less like a zombie since 4 o'clock this morning. Right, I need to make things shiny. It's a new year and my hangover's gone, so we're back in the workshop. And the last video I did, you saw me getting the light inside the body, so I'll put that to one side for a little while. I need to make some progress on the neck. I don't have a fretboard yet. A few weeks ago I put up a post on Instagram with a few options because I couldn't make my mind up. I asked people which one I should go for. I looked at everyone's ideas, read everyone's comments, and then promptly ignored everybody and went for ebony. I think it's just going to work the best with the theme that I'm going with and with the inlays I've chosen. So if you commented and suggested any of the others, the Wenge or the Paduk, or I think the Rosewood was quite a popular one, but that's already been earmarked for a different project. I apologise, but I will use them on something else, I promise. So what I need to do with this is thin it down a little bit, because I'm going to have to use some of the width of this for binding, and then see about getting some slots cut, radius, and do some inlays. So the first job is I need to take some of the width off here, and I can use that for binding afterwards. I'm going to use the table saw because I've done some measuring, and I'm going to lose about as much as I get for the binding width due to the curve of the saw blade, but I've got enough width to play with here that it doesn't really matter. Right, so we've got the binding strips here. I've still got the planed edge on one face because I've taken a strip from both sides of this, and the rough edge will go to the outside, and that'll be nice and easy to sort out. So I'll put those to one side for now, and then I need to plane up one face of this so I've got a definite flat surface to put it into my slotting template. Shush! I need to plane up one of the faces on here so I've got a straight edge, and then I can see about getting some slots cut. No, I'm not going to cut the slots yet. I need a radius. So the first job I'm going to do is mark out a centre line on here, and then I'm going to see about planing in a radius. I'm going to start out planing the radius into this before I go to any sanding. To do that, I'm going to attach it to a square block just to give me something a bit more solid to mount it. So obviously this is quite thin. I don't want it bending or taking on any unevenness that might be in my workbench. I try and keep it nice and flat, but obviously every now and then you get little lumps of glue and things that you might forget to scrape off. So I'm going to attach it down to here, and this will give me a nice solid base. It'll lift it up slightly as well. We'll use the masking tape and super glue trick. It's important to look which way the grain's going, because you don't want to cut against the grain, otherwise the plain blade will dig in and gouge the wood. I've made that mistake on a number of occasions by rushing and forgetting that I'd spun something round. So before you attach it down, always double check. A good way to check how even your radius is looking when you've been planing it is with one of these sanding blocks. Now, if you're looking for a 12-inch radius, like I am on this one, once you've got to a certain point, you can put a bit of pencil on the actual fretboard and give it a quick run over with this. That'll highlight where you need to take off more and how close you are. So if I do this here, we'll see that I am nowhere near 12 inches. And I'll throw it on the floor because I'm clumsy. Stop blowing the dust around. So we've got a lot more to take off on the outside edge. And as you cut it, you can look at the end and see how even you are. So I know I'm slightly higher on this side. So this here is quite a cool little fret slotting jig. So I've had this one for quite a few years. I got it when I was doing a lot of Fender scale 25.5-inch fretboards. It's a little bit limiting. You can only do one scale length with this. But if that's what you're doing, or you've got time, space and money to get a few of them, it's quite nice because nothing moves, everything sits quite comfortably, and you just cut the slots. Use this saw here into these slots and it'll cut the fretboard for you. Once you've cut the first slot, which I'm about to do for the nut, you have this little kind of, it's not quite a blade, but it fits like the saw blade. It's the same curve as the saw blade, which means it sits in this slot here, into the fret slot that you've cut, and that just helps index everything and stop anything from moving around. I've attached it down with some masking tape and super glue, so it's not really necessary, but I'm going to use it anyway. I might cut the 12th fret first, sit that in the middle, and then work around it. I have a sneaking suspicion that I may need to replace this blade. I haven't used it for a while. As far as fret slotting jigs go, this one isn't my favourite. It's a little bit awkward to use at times. It's not great with pre-radiused fretboards because you've got these little plates at the side, which, I mean, you can adjust them up for height and things, but I quite like to just set and forget. So if you vary the thickness of your fretboard or your radius or anything, I've set these at a height where my blade sits in the slot just before it touches the fretboard. So it'll always cut in the right place, but by the time you've gone the full depth of this, which it is designed so that you can set a depth stop on it, essentially. If I've radiused the fretboard, I can't cut the full depth at the sides. So once I've done this, I'll still have to cut the slots by hand to the right depth, but they will all be in the right place. Things like this and the jigs and things are all personal preference. There's loads of different ways to do the same job. None of them are wrong, none of them are necessarily right. They all work to a certain extent. The biggest thing the thing I find most enjoyable about building guitars is finding my own way to do things. I can sit and watch as many videos or read as many books or take it as many instructions as people can give me, and they're brilliant because I learn loads of things, but then I'll take that and I'll figure out my way of doing it, which sometimes doesn't work and I have to redo it the way that I was shown, but I've learned something at that point. If you don't make your own mistakes, then you don't learn why or how those mistakes have happened and how to avoid them in the future. I have ruined a lot of nice pieces of wood by just going in all guns blazing and thinking I know better. Turns out I didn't, so I took a step back and redid it the way that I was shown and figured it out from there. And now I still do it differently, but I've based it on a skill that I've actually learned the way that it was supposed to have been done. So give it a go. Try different methods. If the way that you've seen doesn't work for you, try something else. Just build guitars. It's fun. If you've watched any of my videos, to be honest, you'll probably have noticed I've usually got a scalpel about. I like to have a Swan Morton number 3 with a 10A blade because it serves pretty much all my purposes. I use it as a marking knife, I use it to trim rough grain on the edges of routed cavities, I use it for a bit of carving and engraving and things. They are fantastic. I've used the kind of craft style slip-in blades with the screw handles. I haven't found one that was solid enough. These can take a bit of a beating, and if it does snap, it's only the blade that snaps and your handle is fine. For fretwork or doing fret slots and around the fretboard, I like to change the blade to a number 12 because it's curved and it follows the fret slot really nicely. So that will cut virtually anything across the fret slots, and it's also really handy for scraping out stubborn bits of sawdust. Plus, Swan Morton are based in Sheffield, which is in Yorkshire. We've got the fretboard marked out now, so we've got the taper marked on here. Obviously I'm going to be a couple of millimetres thinner than this on the fretboard when it's done because I've got the binding to attach. We've got the frets marked and we've got a centre line. So I need to mark out where my markers and inlays are going to go. I'm going to be using some of this, which I spent quite a while hunting for. I've had to buy this in because I didn't have the right diameter. I like to use tubing because it gives you a nice ring and then you can fill the middle with whatever you like. I do that with all my side dots with smaller 3mm tube, either brass or aluminium. This is stainless steel because it's the only thing I could find which had a 3mm inner diameter, which is what I need for this. So I'm going to mark out where these sit. The last there we go. The last Phoenix that I did, I ran the inlays from the 3rd to the 12th fret along the base side of the fretboard, then had a double at the 12th, and then ran a line on the treble edge until the 24th where I had another double. I quite like that, so I think I'm going to do that one again. We're quite close on the 25th, so I think they're not going to be offset. But I need to measure up where I'm going to put them. So we'll get a pencil and a ruler and start doing that. And once you've marked them, before you cut or drill anything, just double check, count up where you're at, make sure every mark is on the right fret. Otherwise you get some really weird combinations. So I now need to start drilling this and putting some tubing in there. I've drilled all the holes. Now I need to start inserting some nice bits of tubing. So I'm going to need a hammer, which has fallen on the floor. And essentially tap it in until it stops and cut it off.